Joseph and the Dream, from slave to governor. In the land of Canaan, Jacob had 12 sons, but among them, he especially loved Joseph, the son of his wife Rachel. To show his affection, Jacob made Joseph a beautiful, colorful robe, which made his brothers jealous and hate him. Not only that, Joseph also had strange dreams. One day he told his brothers about his dream. In my dream, we were binding grain in the field, and suddenly my sheaf stood up straight, while your sheaves gathered together and bowed down to my sheaf. Hearing this, his brothers were extremely angry. Do you think you will rule over us? But that was not the end. Joseph had another dream and told it again. I saw the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowing down to me. This time even Jacob rebuked him. Do you mean that your father, your mother, and your brothers will bow down to you? Although he had scolded Jacob, Jacob continued to think about these words, while Joseph's brothers became even more jealous. One day Joseph's brothers went away to tend their flocks. Jacob sent Joseph to find them. When they saw him from a distance, they plotted, "Let's kill him. Then we'll see what his dreams will be like." But Reuben, the oldest brother, intervened. "Don't kill him. Let's throw him into this pit." Reuben planned to rescue Joseph later. When Joseph arrived, his brothers stripped him of his colorful coat and threw him into a deep pit. Just then, a caravan of Ishmaelite merchants passed by. Judah suggested, "Let's not kill our brother. Let's sell him to the Ishmaelites." So they dragged Joseph out and sold him for 20 pieces of silver. To cover up their crime, they killed a goat, dipped Joseph's coat in its blood, and brought it to Jacob. When Jacob saw the coat, he cried out in pain, "My son has been devoured by a wild animal." Joseph was taken to Egypt and sold as a slave to Potiphar, a high-ranking official of Pharaoh. By God's grace, Joseph excelled at his job and won his master's trust. However, Potiphar's wife set her eyes on Joseph and tried to seduce him. Joseph refused. "My master has entrusted everything to me. How can I betray him and sin against God?" In anger at being refused, she falsely accused Joseph of assaulting her. Potiphar believed his wife and threw Joseph into prison. Even in prison, God was with Joseph. He was put in charge of the other prisoners and met 2 of Pharaoh's officials, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. One night, both had strange dreams. Joseph interpreted them. The chief cupbearer would be restored to his position in 3 days. The chief baker would be executed. 3 days later, everything happened just as Joseph had said. Joseph asked the cupbearer to remember him when he was restored to his position, but the cupbearer forgot about him. 2 years later, Pharaoh had 2 disturbing dreams. 7 fat cows were eaten by 7 lean cows. 7 healthy heads of grain were eaten by 7 withered heads of grain. No one could interpret these dreams. Then the cupbearer remembered Joseph. Pharaoh summoned him, and Joseph explained, 7 years of plenty will be followed by 7 years of famine. Store up food during the years of prosperity to save the land. Impressed, Pharaoh appointed Joseph as governor of Egypt, second only to Pharaoh himself. When the famine struck, Jacob sent his sons to Egypt to buy grain. Joseph recognized his brothers, but did not reveal their identities. He tested them by holding Simeon back and asking them to bring Benjamin. When they returned, Joseph put a silver cup in Benjamin's sack and accused him of theft. Judah pleaded, "Please take me instead of Benjamin. Our father will die if he loses another son." Seeing his brother's remorse, Joseph could no longer contain his emotions. He cried and declared, "I am Joseph, your brother. God has used everything to save many lives." His brothers trembled with fear, but Joseph reassured them, "You meant evil, but God meant it for good." Jacob and his family moved to Egypt, joyfully reunited with Joseph. Forgiveness. Joseph chose to forgive his brothers rather than seek revenge. God's faithfulness. Even in difficult times, God had a bigger plan: faith and perseverance. Despite betrayal and suffering, Joseph remained faithful and was ultimately exalted. Joseph's story is not only a story of trials and triumphs, but also a testimony of God's provision for those who trust in him.